Parker Road and Lincoln Avenue, holding this sign. In case you can't read it in the back, we'll work for food. I feel a little like Jack in Titanic right now, because here I am dining with you fine people. I checked out the size of the doors when I came in, just in case. That'll conclude my use of props and any comparisons to me and Leo DiCaprio. So plans were actually made a couple of months ago for me to be a part of this, before I had got a cold for the last couple of days. So bear with me. If we were running a Democratic fundraiser in a district somewhere in Denver, you'd have Chris Rock or some comedian you've actually heard of, and CD4, you get a guy who's willing to work for a free dinner. Let me introduce myself again. I'm Kyle Partain. I know none of you have ever heard of me. I am not a professional comedian, a fact that will become painfully obvious over the next 10 minutes. I'm just a guy who decided to tackle his crippling fear of speaking in public by taking up stand-up comedy at age 50. When I decided to do this, I got on the internet and did a little research. Did you realize that there's an extreme shortage of middle-aged, divorced, white male comedians in this country? It's true. They're almost as rare as a white supremacist at a Trump rally. Despite that, I decided that I had to get on stage and be a voice for my people. So here I am. Something else that's new for me in the last couple of years is exercise. Never did that before. But in my mid-40s, I started to have the waistline of a guy who never exercised in his life. All the gyms were closed because of COVID at the time, so I started walking. Walking's a great exercise because you don't need any special training or equipment. You just have to get your butt off the couch and go. I do have some advice for those of you who've never walked before. I mean, for exercise, of course. If you decide to walk 5 miles, at some point about halfway in, turn around and go back the way you came. Learned that one the hard way. Just walked 5 miles for the first time in my life. I was cold, tired, and stranded 5 miles from home. I had to Uber back by way of a McDonald's drive-thru. I think the fast food restaurants and the gyms are working together. I'm just convinced it's a conspiracy to keep both in business. There's not a gym in this country that doesn't share a parking lot with a McDonald's or a Taco Bell, or both. I went into the gym the other day, got on the treadmill and started running. Looked up at the TV and the first thing I see is a Pizza Hut commercial. And every guy in that gym was thinking, I'm here at the gym. I deserve to reward myself. I've burned 47 calories on this elliptical. Why shouldn't I eat a pizza the size of my car? So the gyms keep us in just a good enough shape that we decide we can reward ourselves. And the fast food restaurants keep us in just bad enough shape that we have to go back to the gyms. I'm telling you, it's a conspiracy. Oh, okay. Sorry, hang on just a second. Again, I'm fighting a cold here, so. So walking was the gateway drug to hiking for me. I had this hiking buddy, Ray. He's in his 70s and retired. The worst thing about hanging out with him and all his retired friends is that they forget I have a job. They're always making plans for 9 a.m. on a Wednesday, and then they're surprised when I don't show up. None of them were born independently wealthy. They all had jobs at one point. It was like they'd forgotten that part of their life ever existed. I think they honestly think that the guy at Home Depot was just a volunteer giving back to his community. Ray and his equally elderly hiking buddy, John, have accepted that there are some limitations that come with their somewhat advanced age. And so they still hike almost every day, but now there are support teams involved. You would think they were ascending Everest. Those fancy trail apps don't work on Ray's flip phone, so they have to have a guide. And in recent years, they decided that it was probably best if they hiked with someone who had medical training for any hike over more than 20 yards. One of their favorites is Paula. She's a nurse who spent some time with the Douglas County Coroner's Office. She carries everything they might need on a hike, from bandages and splints to heart medication to Viagra. It was a little concerning on one hike when she pulled out toe tags and put them in her backpack. Could have just been left over from the day job, but I was a little worried about what was going to happen if one of them broke a leg on the trail. So the reason I'm here tonight is Ray is the husband of Diane, who we've already given an award to. That's 100% how I got this job. When Diane first asked me to perform here, my initial question was, Colorado District 4 has a Democratic Party? It gets better, calm down. I mean, after all, this district's only elected one Democrat to the House in my lifetime, and that's quite a few more years than I care to admit. But we do have, as we've already mentioned, 3 people who are willing to beat their heads against the district's Democratic brick wall. And eventually one of them will take on whichever awful person Trump anoints to run for the Republicans. We've already recognized those 3. I would say that they're very brave people. I would also say that they're probably also a little bit crazy. But in the words of Kathy Bates in an episode of The Office, I like a little crazy. Excuse me again. I don't recommend head colds, by the way. So they told me that each of these candidates will speak tonight, and I encourage you to, of course, stick around and hear from them. They also told me that I get 10 minutes or so, and each of the candidates only get 5. I think it says a lot about our country that the comedian gets more time than the politicians. I'm not necessarily arguing with it, but I think it says a lot about where we are as a country. But you know, we're not here to pick on our candidates. We're here to support them, to uplift them. So how about we pick on some Republicans instead? Yeah. Anybody with me on that? Come on. Okay. Any Ken Buck fans in the house? I'm not surprised. Even Republicans don't like Ken Buck these days. Just ask Donald Trump, Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan, Satan. Ken Buck changes directions more than those paths that go up the Colorado 14ers. First he was for Trump, until he wasn't. Then he wasn't so sure Trump was responsible for January 6th. Then he was. Then he couldn't vote for a Speaker of the House who denied the 2020 election, until he could. These days he's adamant that Trump lost that election. But he wasn't so sure when he signed on to legal proceedings trying to challenge the results. Ken Buck recently said that the Republicans are lying to the American public. Finally, words from Ken Buck we can believe. The real question is, does Ken Buck actually believe them? He did today. Will he tomorrow? Or next week or next year? We'll have to check back with him. If history has told us anything, it's that he'll have a different opinion sometime in the near future. So we need to elect as many Democrats to the House as we can to fight the backwards right-wing thinking of new Speaker Mike Johnson.
Amen.
His only qualification for that job was that nobody knew who the heck he was or what he stood for. And now that we do, we can't give him the luxury of a bigger majority in the House. We also need to elect a Democrat from this district because we've already met our quota of crazy House Republicans in Washington, D.C. from this state alone. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So no Ken Buck fans, any Lauren Boebert fans here? Okay, I'll tell you one thing. I would never vote for the woman, but I might enjoy a night at the theater with her.
Yeah, what good?
Oh. And then we've got our neighbor to the south, Doug Lamborn from Colorado Springs. Let's hear it for Doug Lamborn. No? You know, Lauren Boebert's been so crazy in the House that we've almost forgotten what an idiot Doug Lamborn is. The man wouldn't have even been eligible for re-election a few years ago if he hadn't followed the example of his supreme leader, Trump, and sued to get his name on the ballot. And his biggest fight all these years he's been in Washington, D.C. is with TDS, of all things. I think he wants to defund TDS because he can't quite grasp the concepts that they're trying to teach 5-year-olds. Let's give him a break. Shapes and colors are tough for some people. I honestly think Elmo could represent that district better than he does. Oh. So fortunately, most of Colorado's districts have been pretty good at electing Democrats to the House in recent years. And it's time that CD4 join them. You know, we tend to worry about a lot of things that don't really matter all that much in life. I used to worry about my hair going gray. Or how I would stay grounded when I won Powerball. Neither has been a major problem in my life. Maybe you've got some of these same concerns, but we need to put those aside and focus on something that really matters, and that's saving our democracy.
Amen.
We can do that by putting a Democrat in the House from this district. We can do that by supporting the Phoenix Project that we've already heard a little bit about. And with your help, we can turn CD4 blue in 24. Thank you.